Why do you live in constant alert, even when you should be at peace? Why does your body tremble with anxiety precisely in moments that should be about love? The answer is hidden in the cruelest of psychological paradoxes. You are stressed because you believe you are being loved when in reality you are being drained. Carl Jung uncovered a truth few dare to face. There is a type of bond that masquerades as love, but functions like a machine that sucks the vital essence from those who surrender. It's what we call a traumatic bond, and it doesn't happen by chance. It is built, brick by brick, by those who know exactly how to transform your need for love into a source of control. You know this feeling. It's that knot in your stomach that tightens when the person who supposedly loves you shows coldness. It's the constant fear of doing something wrong, of being replaced, of not being enough. It's the mental exhaustion that prevents you from working, from thinking clearly, from simply existing without a part of you always monitoring, always on guard. But here's what no one told you. This stress isn't love. It's control. And whoever controls you knows exactly what they're doing. The emotional manipulator is an architect of dependence. They study your insecurities like a map, identify your wounds as entry points, and then build a psychological labyrinth where you get lost, believing that only they can find you. They feed your neediness while creating more neediness. They offer you crumbs of affection after periods of calculated coldness. They make you feel special and then make you question if you deserve that specialness. The result is devastating. You live in a constant state of alert because your psyche recognizes the danger, but your conscious mind has been convinced that this danger is love. Your body produces cortisol as if it were in a war zone, because it truly is. But the war happens within your own perception of reality. Jung called this an autonomous complex, a part of your psyche that functions independently of your conscious will, creating patterns of behavior and emotional response that you cannot control. When someone systematically manipulates your feelings, they are literally programming complexes into your mind. They are creating circuits of dependence that activate automatically. You wonder why you can't just leave, why you can't stop thinking about this person, why your entire day revolves around their mood. It's because your nervous system has been hijacked. Your natural capacity for discernment has been replaced by conditioned emotional survival reflexes. The person who should be your source of peace has become your source of stress. And the cruelest part, they've convinced you that this stress is proof of your love for them. But Jung also discovered something revolutionary. The same psyche that can be manipulated can also be liberated. The same consciousness that was imprisoned can also awaken. And when it awakens, it not only frees itself, it becomes immune to manipulation. Today you will understand how to recognize the signs of this emotional hijacking, how to identify when the stress you feel is not love, but control, and most importantly, how to break this cycle and reclaim sovereignty over your own emotional life. Because the truth is this: you are not stressed because you love too much. You are stressed because you are being manipulated by someone who has discovered how to turn your love into chains. Stop now and feel your body. Feel the tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the restlessness that never completely leaves you. How long have you had this feeling? Since when did you become a smaller version of yourself, always walking on eggshells, always measuring your words, always trying to guess the mood of someone who should bring you peace? How many times have you found yourself compulsively checking your phone, waiting for a reply that is deliberately delayed? How many times has your heart raced when you saw that the person read your message but didn't respond? How many nights have you spent replaying conversations trying to identify where you went wrong, where you could have been better? This is not love. It's addiction. It's emotional dependence deliberately created. Answer with brutal honesty. Can you go an entire day without thinking about this person? Can you make an important decision without considering their reaction? Can you feel genuine joy without needing to share it with them to validate that joy? If the answer is no, you are experiencing what Jung identified as the loss of personality function. Your individuality has been absorbed by a toxic relational system. You are no longer living your life. You are living based on the approval of whoever manipulates you. Observe the signs. You've changed. Close friends comment that you are different, more anxious, more distant. You've lost interest in things that once gave you pleasure. Your ability to concentrate at work has drastically decreased. You feel constantly tired, even when sleeping more. Your self-esteem fluctuates like a seesaw, depending entirely on the attention you receive. Your body is screaming the truth your mind refuses to see. You are in danger. Not physical danger, but something much more subtle and devastating. Psychic danger. Your essence is being drained. Your vitality is being redirected to feed the empty ego of whoever controls you. The person causing you this stress is not innocent. They noticed your vulnerabilities and turned them into tools of control. When you show independence, they pull you back with calculated moments of intimacy. When you question the relationship, they make you feel guilty for doubting their love. When you try to set boundaries, they interpret it as rejection and punish you with coldness or threats of abandonment. You have become a hostage to your own feelings, and the kidnapper has convinced you that the chains are gifts of love. While you justify their behavior, your vital energy drains away. While you accept crumbs of affection as if they were banquets, your capacity for discernment atrophies. While you adapt to their emotional whims, your authentic personality fragments. Your true self, that deepest and wisest part of your psyche, is trying to warn you through stress. This constant discomfort is not neurosis. It is visceral wisdom. It is your psychic system trying to protect you from a threat your conscious mind doesn't want to recognize. The question you need to ask is not, how can I love this person better? The question is, why do I accept being treated in a way that causes me so much suffering? Because as long as you confuse control with care, manipulation with passion, dependence with love, you will remain a prisoner of a bond that consumes you from within. Do you recognize this pattern? Do you recognize this trap? It's because you haven't just observed it from the outside. You've experienced it firsthand. And today, you will understand exactly how this manipulation works, and how to break the invisible chains that hold you captive. Emotional manipulation is not an accident. It is a precise psychological strategy that exploits a fundamental vulnerability of the human psyche, our need for connection. Jung discovered that this need, when distorted, becomes the gateway to the most destructive complexes a person can develop. The emotional manipulator functions like a psychic vampire who has identified exactly where your vital energy is most accessible, through your capacity to love. They don't want to destroy this capacity. They want to redirect it exclusively to themselves, transforming your love into fuel for their own empty ego. The mechanism is devastatingly simple: intermittent reinforcement. This is the same technique used by casinos to create gambling addicts. Moments of intense affection alternated with periods of calculated coldness, praise followed by subtle criticism, emotional closeness followed by inexplicable distancing. Your brain, desperate for pattern and predictability, enters a state of constant hypervigilance. Neuroscience confirms what Jung intuited. This type of relationship creates the same brain changes as chemical addiction. You develop tolerance, needing increasingly larger doses of approval to feel good. You experience withdrawal when the person distances themselves, and you develop compulsion, thinking about them obsessively even when it causes you suffering. But there is a deeper layer to this manipulation that Jung called shadow projection. The manipulator projects onto you all the qualities they wish they had: the capacity for genuine love, empathy, loyalty, emotional generosity. Then they proceed to drain these qualities from you as if they were inexhaustible resources, never reciprocating in kind. You become the repository of everything good in the relationship, while they remain in the role of passive receiver. When something goes wrong, it's your fault for not loving enough. When something goes right, it's to their credit for giving you the opportunity to demonstrate that love. This is the diabolical core of manipulation. It inverts psychological reality. The manipulator convinces you that you are the center of the relationship's problems, when in reality, you are the source of all positive energy within it. They make you feel inadequate for failing to fill a void that is, by nature, insatiable. Jung identified this as negative ego inflation. You develop a grandiose perception of your responsibility for the other's feelings, combined with a diminished perception of your own worth. You feel powerful enough to heal their emotional wound, but powerless enough to deserve reciprocity. The result is the constant stress you feel. Your psyche is working full-time to emotionally sustain two people, while only one receives care. It's like trying to carry two heavy backpacks while someone walks beside you, free of any burden, complaining that you're not walking fast enough. Your nervous system interprets this overload as a constant threat, keeping you in a perpetual state of alert. Your body produces cortisol as if fleeing a predator because psychologically it is. The truth Jung wanted you to understand is this: you were not chosen to be loved. You were chosen to be exploited, and the first step to liberation is recognizing this fundamental difference. Now that you understand the mechanism, let's identify the specific signs that you are being emotionally drained. These are not symptoms of intense love. They are evidence of systematic manipulation. Recognize how many of these patterns are operating in your life right now. The first sign is what Jung would call the loss of reality function. You can no longer trust your own perceptions about the relationship. When something bothers you about the person's behavior, you immediately question if you're overreacting, if you're being too sensitive, if you're misinterpreting. Your natural capacity for discernment has been replaced by constant doubt about your own feelings. This is the result of emotional gaslighting. The manipulator systematically invalidates your perceptions, making you question your own emotional sanity. They never take direct responsibility for your unease. Instead, they always find a way to make you feel that the problem lies in your inability to understand or accept their love. The second sign is emotional performance anxiety. You feel constantly tested in the relationship. Every interaction feels like an exam where you need to prove you deserve their attention. You measure every word, every gesture, every facial expression, trying to guess what they expect from you. You have lost spontaneity, that natural ability to simply be yourself. This is evidence that you have internalized a relentless critic who is actually their voice echoing in your head. You are no longer relating to them. You are relating to the version of you they approve of. And this version is never enough because the goal is not your improvement, but your control. The third sign is the fragmentation of your social network. You have progressively isolated yourself from friends and family, not necessarily because they asked, but because you know they would question the relationship. You avoid conversations about your relationship, change the subject when asked how you are, make excuses not to meet people who truly know you. Jung would identify this as an autonomous complex at work. A part of your psyche knows the relationship is harmful, so it pulls you away from any external source of validation that could confirm this perception. You become exclusively dependent on the version of reality they offer. The fourth sign is disproportionate emotional exhaustion. Simple conversations with this person leave you mentally drained. You need hours to recover from interactions that should be pleasant. You feel like you've run a marathon after a 20-minute conversation. This happens because you are constantly decoding subtexts, interpreting moods, anticipating reactions. It's your nervous system screaming that you are in hostile territory, even if your conscious mind insists you are being loved. Your body recognizes what your mind denies. You are in constant emotional survival mode. The fifth sign is the loss of interest in activities that once gave you pleasure. Hobbies, personal projects, professional ambitions, everything seems unimportant compared to the emotional complexity of the relationship. You are not living your life. You are managing a relationship that consumes all your psychic energy. This reveals how manipulation operates. It not only drains your current energy, but also cuts your connection to independent sources of satisfaction and fulfillment. You become emotionally dependent, not by choice, but by systematic elimination of alternatives. These 5 signs operate as an interconnected network, each reinforcing the others, creating a closed system where your emotional reality becomes completely subordinate to the whims of whoever manipulates you. Recognizing them is the first step to rebuilding your psychic sovereignty. The most subtle and devastating signs are yet to come. These are the ones that directly attack your essence, transforming your most beautiful qualities into tools of self-destruction. Observe with what surgical precision they operate on your psyche. The 6th sign is disproportionate guilt when you prioritize your needs. You feel as if you are betraying the person when you dedicate time to yourself, when you set boundaries, when you simply say no to something you don't want to do. This guilt is not natural. It was systematically installed through emotional punishments every time you demonstrated independence. Jung would recognize this as an inversion of moral function. Your ethical compass has been reprogrammed to serve the interests of whoever manipulates you. What should be healthy self-care has been reinterpreted as selfishness. What should be self-preservation has been labeled as a lack of love. You have developed an external superego that functions entirely for the manipulator's benefit. The 7th sign is the compulsive need to explain and justify your feelings. When something bothers you, you feel you need to build a complete legal case to have the right to feel bothered. You collect evidence, anticipate counter-arguments, Prepare elaborate defenses for feelings that should simply be valid by virtue of existing. This reveals how your emotional perception has been delegitimized. In healthy relationships, your feelings are accepted as valid information about your experience. In manipulation, they are treated as evidence that needs to be judged and approved by external authority before being considered real. The eighth sign is extreme oscillation between hope and despair. You live on an emotional roller coaster where small gestures of affection from them make you feel on top of the world, and small signs of coldness plunge you into deep depression. This emotional instability is not sensitivity, it is operant conditioning in action. Your emotional stability has been hijacked and now depends entirely on another person's moods and whims. Jung would call this the loss of the self's regulatory function. You can no longer generate well-being internally. It only comes from an external source, and that source has been monopolized by the manipulator. The ninth sign is the constant rationalization of behaviors you would never tolerate from other people. You find elaborate explanations for simple cruelties, justify coldness as protection, interpret manipulation as a test of love. You have become a defense attorney for whoever hurts you. This is evidence of cognitive dissonance at work. Your mind cannot process that someone who supposedly loves you can also cause you so much suffering, so it distorts reality to keep the illusion of love intact, even if that means denying your own experience of pain. The 10th and most devastating sign is the loss of the ability to imagine life without this person, not because you love them so much, but because you can no longer remember who you were before them. Your identity has been so absorbed by the dynamic of the relationship that you literally no longer know who you are when you are alone. Jung would identify this as the pathological dissolution of ego boundaries. You did not individuate in the relationship, you fragmented. Instead of two whole people relating, you have one whole person draining the fragments of another. These 10 signs function as an integrated system of psychological control. Each one lays the groundwork for the others, creating an emotional prison where the bars themselves are made of your manipulated feelings. But recognizing the prison is the first step to finding the key, and that key has always been with you. Now that you have identified the signs, it's time for action. Liberation from this traumatic bond does not happen through direct confrontation with the manipulator. It happens through the reconstitution of your relationship with yourself. Jung called this the process of individuation, the rescue of your authentic personality from the clutches of external complexes. The first practice is what we will call a daily emotional audit. For 1 week, record in a journal how you feel before, during, and after each interaction with this person. Don't analyze, don't justify. Just record raw data. Before, anxious. During, relieved and tense. After, exhausted and confused. This practice will reveal patterns your conscious mind doesn't want to see. You will discover that you consistently feel worse after interactions your mind insists on calling positive. Your records will become objective evidence against the manipulation of your perception. The second practice is the reconstruction of your internal reference network. Identify 3 people who knew you before this relationship and who genuinely care about your well-being. Tell them, with brutal honesty, how you feel. Don't ask for advice. Just ask them to reflect back to you what they observe. Jung understood that autonomous complexes distort our perception of ourselves. We need healthy external mirrors to reconnect with our authentic emotional reality. These people will function as reference points for who you truly are, outside the manipulative dynamic. The third practice is the role reversal exercise. Imagine a dear friend came to you and described exactly the relationship you are living, with all the intimate details you know. What advice would you give? How would you feel about the person treating your friend that way? This technique breaks the pathological identification with the manipulator. When you can see the situation from the outside, the manipulation becomes obvious. The compassion you would feel for your friend is the same compassion you deserve to feel for yourself. The fourth practice is the gradual contact detoxification technique. Do not cut contact abruptly, as this can cause panic and relapse. Instead, start progressively increasing the intervals between interactions. Where you used to respond immediately, respond in an hour. Where you responded in an hour, respond the next day. This process allows your nervous system to gradually calm down, breaking the conditioning of constant availability. You will begin to realize that you can exist without being constantly connected to the source of your anxiety. The fifth and most powerful practice is the Jungian active imagination technique for reclaiming your stolen essence. Sit in silence and imagine yourself talking to the version of you that existed before this relationship. Ask her, what do I need to remember about who I am? What parts of myself did I give away and need to reclaim? Let this conversation flow naturally. Your psyche has deep wisdom about what has been lost and how it can be recovered. This is not fantasy. It is dialogue with aspects of your personality that have been suppressed by manipulation. Liberation is not an event. It is a process. Every small act of self-preservation rebuilds your psychic sovereignty. Every moment you choose your perception over their interpretation is an act of internal revolution. You are not healing from love. You are healing from an addiction that was disguised as love. You have come this far, and something fundamental has changed within you. No matter what your mind is still trying to rationalize, a deeper part of your psyche has awakened. You can no longer ignore what you have seen. You can no longer passively accept what you have recognized as manipulation. The veil has been lifted, and there is no putting it back. This awareness is your first victory. It is the moment you stop being an unconscious victim and become a conscious survivor. It is when the energy that was being drained from you begins to return to where it always should have been, serving your own life, your own dreams, your own journey of growth. The stress you felt was not love. It was your true self fighting to survive within a dynamic that was suffocating it. It was your inner wisdom screaming through the language of the body that you were in dangerous territory. Now you know how to decode these signals. Now you are the guardian of your own essence. You understood that traumatic bonds masquerade as great passions, that emotional manipulators present themselves as great loves, that the suffering you interpreted as romantic intensity was, in fact, your psyche being systematically tortured by someone who learned to transform your capacity to love into a tool of control. But Jung teaches us that every crisis contains the seed of individuation. Every moment of awakening to manipulation is also a moment of awakening to your own strength. You discovered that you are more resilient than you imagined, that your capacity for discernment is more powerful than you were led to believe, that your intuition always knew the truth, even when your mind refused to listen. The journey that begins now is not one of revenge or confrontation. It is one of reconstruction. It is about retrieving the parts of you that were fragmented and scattered to serve another person's ego. It is about integrating these parts into a stronger, more conscious personality, more protected against future manipulations. You are no longer the same person you were when this video began. You now carry the knowledge that Jung considered liberating, the understanding that your emotional pain often does not come from within, but is injected by toxic relational systems, and that recognizing this difference is the beginning of true freedom. Every time you choose your feelings over another person's interpretation, you will be practicing sovereignty. Every time you validate your own perception, even when someone tries to invalidate it, you will be rebuilding your internal authority. Every moment you choose peace over drama, clarity over confusion, you will be honoring the self that always fought to emerge. Comment below which of the 10 signs most alerted you to your own situation. What was the most powerful moment of recognition for you? Your courage to name what you have lived through can be the beacon that guides another person on the same journey. Like this video if you felt the inner strength needed to question what you always accepted as normal. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-protection and conscious individuation. Manipulation only works in the dark. Now you have the light. Now you have the map. Now you are the architect of your own liberation. The stress you carried was the weight of a fragmented personality trying to sustain 2 lives. Now you can use all that energy to build a life that is truly yours. Individuation is just beginning. Awaken.